Hello and welcome to Unapologetic, a new UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right-of-centre viewpoint. So first I would like to welcome, I'm Steve by the way, and first I'd like to welcome my two fellow podcasters. The first one is Susan. Say hello, Susan.
Hiya.
And the other one is, do you prefer Sam or Samantha?
Sam's fine.
Okay, so say hello, Sam.
Hey.
And our intention is just a kind of a podcast about things that we're interested in, which are kind of news or politics or anything similar that's going on in the UK, or maybe even global. Who knows what we'll talk about. But this week we're going to be talking about the Lib Dem conference. Now, the Liberal Democrats are a party here in the UK, kind of left of centre. They've been having that conference this week, and it's just finished. And a number of things that happened have hit the headlines or been talked about by people. So we thought we'd go over them, have a bit of a chat about them. And the first one is the big one, which is that the new leader, Jo Swinson of the Lib Dems, she promised to revoke Brexit without a referendum. And this is what she said. She said, "The first task is clear. We must stop Brexit. And we are crystal clear. A Liberal Democrat majority government will revoke Article 50 on day one, because there is no Brexit that will be good for our country. Europe makes our United Kingdom stronger, but Brexit hurts our family of nations." So, Susan, what do you think about that?
I think this woman really worries me, the fact that she can just pretend that 17.4 million people's votes don't count. Just to kind of sit and say no, just no. We're not even going to go for a second vote, which I would not agree with either. But just to sit there and say no, we're going to ignore it and go to something else really worries me actually.
Yeah, and what do you think, Sam?
Well, I also don't agree with what she said, but at least she's being honest, I suppose. At least now that, you know, if you're voting Lib Dem, you're voting to remain in the EU and going against the democratic vote. So I guess I've got to admire her honesty.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, it frustrates me a little bit because the Lib Dems seem to say whatever they think will suit them at the time, but they have positioned themselves as the main Remainer party for quite a while now. And I guess what they're saying is, if there's a general election and you vote for us, the Lib Dems, then you are voting to stay, to cancel Brexit. So they're saying if they win a majority in the country, that gives them the mandate to immediately do it without this second referendum. But they have been pledging people's vote, and we want a people's vote, we want another vote. They have been pledging that for a long time, haven't they?
They have, and also it's a bit, you know, without trying to be too nerdy here, it's not actually that possible in our system to take that. If they were to win, we don't have PR here, we do have a first past the post system, so if they were to win in certain areas, that wouldn't necessarily be a vote for Remain anyway. So I don't think they can look at it in that sort of view.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think that's the reason why they've then gone on we're going to leave? Because they've seen a kind of a gap in the market rather than actually ask what their core values are? Because if they were calling for a second vote and now suddenly it's a let's leave end of, let's stay end of.
Well, remember, they were the first party to actually call for an in-out referendum. Years ago, they were calling for an in-out referendum on Europe, and then we got one and leave one, and suddenly they wanted to cancel that. But, I mean, I think it's fair to say most Lib Dems I know are Remainers and want to stay in the EU. So I think that probably is their core view, if you like. I mean, it's interesting for a general election, isn't it? I guess the strategic point is that they want to take Labour's votes because Labour are a bit wishy-washy on Europe. No one's quite sure what they stand for. The Lib Dems see an opportunity to become the second party. And let's face it, they haven't got a lot of MPs now. And the ones they have got are sort of come across from other places. So in a lot of cases. So anyway, I did want to talk about another comment that they made at the Lib Dem conference. It's Jo Swinson again. And this is where she wanted to warn people about she said, a terrible future the country faces with Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn in power. Two quite different individuals to both bring a terrible future, apparently. But this is what she said. She said, "People across Britain deserve a better choice than an entitled Etonian or a 1970s socialist." Now, what do you think about that, Sam?
Well, I think she got half of it right. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is a 1970s socialist. But, I mean, yeah, I guess the point you're probably making is that she shouldn't really be that divisive. You know, just saying that he's a socialist and Johnson's an Etonian, really. He's being a bit unfair. And also, actually, even if they are, don't people have that as a choice? Aren't people entitled to that?
I mean, what's she saying, Susan? She seems to be saying that there's something wrong with going to a really good school. Don't Lib Dems mostly go to university? Aren't they graduates?
Yeah, and I just don't think you can class education as a kind of a throw around weapon at people, if I'm honest with you. If you've done well, and don't get me wrong, I'd like education to be, you know, accessible by all, but if someone has got a good education, it can't be used against them, surely.
Well, they seem to be saying, oh, not Boris, he went to Eton. I mean, he's had a really good education, so he can't possibly be a good leader. It doesn't seem to hang together, does it?
I was going to say, because I've worked really hard to make sure my daughter gets to go to university, so I find that really a kind of a strange comment, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Well, she said At the end of her speech, she said, "This much I am sure of. The opportunity in front of us is huge and it is for the taking. We can win, we must win. And to do so, we must build the biggest liberal movement this country has ever seen. Our job is to gather the forces of liberalism and be the rallying point for change." Forces of liberalism, Sam?
Yeah, there's like old school liberalism and the Lib Dems are just so far apart. They're not even close. I mean, I was having an argument on Twitter the other day about this, and someone was saying, "Oh well, you know, Churchill, he was a liberal, and you know, and now people are getting kicked out of the Tory party, and isn't there any liberalism in the Lib Dems and all of this?" But you know, liberalism in the olden days and the Lib Dems are just not the same. There's no orange bookers left in the Lib Dems now. They've all been kicked out. It's just not that party anymore.
No.
I agree, actually. Yeah.
I mean, they just seem to have swung further and further to the left, and Labour seem to have a weird mishmash of policies, and I'm not sure who is more left now of the two, are you?
No, not really. But I think, like, obviously, Labour, from some of the things I'm hearing in their early conference speeches, they are sounding pretty hard left. So I think that's maybe talk for another day.
Yeah. Well, apparently the Lib Dem party leader, Jo Swinson, was heckled. During a question and answer session, Lib Dem leader Jo Swinson was shouted down as she faced a grilling over her acceptance of former Tory minister Philip Lee into the party. And the reason was the Bracknell MP has previously refused to back same-sex marriage and moved to block those with HIV from migrating to the UK. So they let him in, but now she's facing a backlash from that. What do you think, Susan?
Well, you may know that I work with young people, so I feel really strongly about this one. I can't accept anyone that doesn't agree with same-sex marriage. I don't think we should ever be a force to stop people from being together in a healthy, happy adult relationship. And the fact that they've allowed him in, well, it just kind of goes against what they actually stand for, surely.
Yeah, I mean, they were very quick to criticise him when he was making those comments, but the minute it suited them to have another seat on the benches, as it were, across he came, welcome with open arms. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, and I think that they're in a difficult one, aren't they? Because once you make these really big, broad claims about what you don't accept, you then can't accept it. So when they do let Philip Lee in, they're kind of going against their core message. So I can see why a lot of their members are unhappy about it.
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing the test recording for this session, Sam was squeaking her chair a lot. I had to say to her, stop making this noise, and here I am actually just doing the same thing. So I'm sorry if you're listening to the podcast and my chair is squeaking. Just goes to show you've got to be careful what you say. Yeah, okay, well, they have let Philip Lee into the party, and some of the members are unhappy about that. But quite a few people have crossed over to the Lib Dems, haven't they? Quite a lot of, well, a number of the Conservatives who have been thrown out of the party have suggested that's what they're going to do. What do you think?
Well, I do question, and this is going back to what I was saying on Twitter the other day. I do question any Conservative that feels at home in the Lib Dems, whether they actually should have ever been in the Conservative Party. I mean, Heidi Allen, you know, was she always a Lib Dem? Chuck Umama now has gone over from Labour then to his, whether they were the Chucks or the whatever the name was, and now he's a Lib Dem. They just seem to be taking anyone, to be honest with you, and it's a bit of a free-for-all.
Well, they'd really fallen back in their power levels, haven't they? There were very few Lib Dem MPs elected last time, and I suppose they see an opportunity to grow. Do you think, Susan?
Yeah, but I think they're growing in the wrong way, aren't they? Because if you're just kind of taking the drop-ins from every other party, you're not actually building a strong party yourself, surely.
No, but then part of this must also be the Conservatives' fault, because I think the fact that these people felt at home in the Conservatives for a number of years suggests the Conservatives slipped away from their core values and over perhaps too much to the middle or even slightly to the centre-left in some respects. And so those people were able to do very well. And now that we're seeing a kind of resurgence of traditional values, would you call it that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that. I've been thinking that for a long time, because I think the Conservative Party has been very, not wishy-washy, that's the wrong word, but I suppose under Cameron it was moved quite far over to the centre. Obviously we had the coalition government, and it was very much a real one nation party, and one nation in the sense of almost being to the Lib Dems. I think it is still a one nation party, but it is definitely moving. I would actually say arguably has more liberalism now, and actually looking at some of Boris's ideas, especially on sort of like domestic policies and people's views, he actually has probably more liberalism than the Lib Dems in some of his ideas.
It's early days, isn't it? But he's talking about, I mean, there seems to be a move towards cutting back the nanny state, and that's an old-fashioned liberal tradition, isn't it? Rolling back the nanny state so that people have choice and ability to make their own actions within reason, within the law. That's an old-fashioned liberal position. I think almost the Conservatives are the only ones championing now.
Yeah, but I'd say it's very old-fashioned because then they want to take away people's choice now, though, don't they? So
Yeah.
we want to get rid of the nanny state, but they don't want anyone else to have a vote on what they do and don't do. So.
No. Well, interesting. The Lib Dems have been calling for an end to division in politics, which is one of those things that people call for and don't really mean it, I think. And Lib Dems prove that because they've been selling badges and T-shirts and other merchandise with the words "bollocks to Brexit" on it. So very undivisive there. What they're basically doing is selling 17.5 million people exactly what they think of them. What do you think of that sort of language, Sam?
I think that it's very unreasonable, really. I don't think they should be saying that to people. I mean, everyone's entitled to free speech.
It's quite funny, though, isn't it?
It is funny. It's a bit silly, really. I can't get too upset about it, if I'm honest. But I do think it's not really nice, is it, to be saying that to people?
Am I being too sensitive to think that they shouldn't have those swear words on T-shirts anyway? Am I being too soft?
Well,
I apologise if I am.
There's lots of sweary T-shirts out there, and I don't care. The way I feel about it is the problem is that the Lib Dems are always the ones who say don't do these things, and then it's a bit hypocritical for them to go and do it. I mean, I personally don't care if they want to wear a bollocks to Brexit T-shirt or have a bollocks to Brexit a thermal cup or whatever they want to do, you know, or sandals or whatever the Lib Dems do. But you know, I just think that they're so hypocritical all the time.
It's not just that though. I mean, I remember seeing on TV there was like a group of sort of, and this is going to make me sound bad, but they were sort of middle-aged, middle-class women. They had all these bollocks to Brexit T-shirts on, and then they were kind of standing there as like, yeah, we know what like young kids want in our area, bollocks to Brexit, and it was actually quite cringeworthy. I mean, not that I'm pretending to be some sort of like really hip person. I'm not, you know, like I'm getting older myself. But
that's lucky that Sam.
I wouldn't be putting on a T-shirt and sort of pretending to be like really super cool. So that was quite embarrassing.
And it's quite undermining, though, isn't it? For the 17.4 million people that voted Brexit, you're literally just saying, "Well, bollocks to you lot."
Yeah, and they seem to think there are no young people who voted to leave the EU, and there are loads of them. It's absolute nonsense. But just sort of minimise their voice seems wrong to me. So what else have they done? They've said that they want to restrict this is back to their conference again. They want to restrict the ministers' powers, UK ministers, to revoke UK citizenship. I've got the report here. It says Lib Dem members voted in favour of a conference motion that would remove the Home Secretary's unilateral right to deprive people of their UK citizenship. It comes after former Home Secretary Sajid Javid, now the Chancellor, stripped Islamic State recruit Shamima Begum, how do you say that name? Begum, thank you. I think that's right. Of her citizenship after she joins the terror group. So they want to basically stop the Home Secretary being able to strip citizenship in extreme cases. What do you think, Susan?
I don't want to strip anyone's ability to stop people that are a threat to this country from coming here, being here, staying here. I don't. I think it should be a really quick, easy process to remove anybody from this country or to stop them from coming here if they're a threat to this country. And it's as simple as that.
Wouldn't it worry you, though, that the power might be abused? Say the wrong minister was in charge and they used it on somebody you knew, perhaps unfairly or for the wrong reasons. Isn't that a danger?
I'm assuming there's going to be some really good processes to be able to go through to appeal.
I think that's sort of their point. Their point is that he can unilaterally do it, or he or she, whoever the Home Secretary is at the time, can unilaterally do it.
Do you not think that you've got to have some sort of parameters in place, though, to be able to judge what they're going to do? So you can't just sit there and say some guy called whatever turns up and we're going to go, no, we're not allowing him in. But there's got to be, I mean, there's an amazing software and facial recognition and everything else going around. If we're going to ignore what they say and we're going to ignore the fact that these people are in certain areas that cause us threat and we're just going to ignore that, then no.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, well, I think that the problem is that they have to have some sort of power because there are people that are a threat to this country, and actually they are. There isn't that they have no checks and balances, because you know this whole case with Shamima, there was a lot of political pressure. I mean, it's been talked about in the news for months and months and months with people on different sides of the argument. It was talked about extensively, even locally people were talking about it here. And even now, I mean, it's in the media at the moment because I think Cherie Blair's representing her. I don't know if she's actually come back to the UK.
Yeah,
so
I've seen reports.
Yeah, so it's definitely, there's no, it's not that easy to say that the Chancellor can just, I keep saying Chancellor because he's recently been a bit of a reshuffle on the Home Secretary, can just, you know, kick people out and revoke their citizenship. Because, yes, okay, on paper they can do that and they do have that power, but they do have to look at the politics of things as well.
Yeah. I mean, this is the only one of the things we're talking about today I've got a little bit of sympathy with them for. Because if he can unilaterally do it, I do worry about the state having that sort of power, because at the moment they would only we presume that a Conservative minister would you do it for the right reasons. But of course, any party can become corrupt and do things for the wrong reasons. And I do like. I think all they were suggesting, and I don't have the whole policy in front of me, but I believe they were suggesting it would have to be verified by a judge. The trouble is, of course, judges can be political activists as well in their way, can't they? A lot of power seems to be given to them. It's a difficult one, I think.
And it's not easy because, like I said, there has been a massive amount of social pressure on this, hasn't there? Like from all different sides of the... And I think judges can be prone to probably listen to some of those things because it's not about the... You've got to kind of... Well, you've got to look after the people. It's not about what's been done, it's what the possibilities that could be done, the risk factors. Yeah,
what might happen in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you talk to most people and you got a kind of an average, most of the country were not in favour of Shamima coming back, were they? They weren't in fact, they supported what the Home Secretary did, and they weren't in favour of her coming back. Now, I don't know if she has or hasn't come back. I've also seen rumours or comments today, actually, that she may have done. We'll have to perhaps talk about that on another podcast. So just a couple more things we're going to talk about tonight. The first is they've just finished washing up on the Lib Dem conference. The Lib Dems would have this thing they do each year called the Glee Club, where it's like sort of like a karaoke. They all go and have a good sing along. Sounds a lot of fun. But one of the things they do is they change the lyrics of songs, I believe, to criticise their opponents. That's quite funny. I've got no problem with that. But apparently this year they were singing about Tony Blair, and the lyrics of the song were that he should F off and die. Now, they used the full word. I'm not going to use it on the podcast, but they sang the whole thing. And again, it's one of those hypocritical things. What do you think about that, Sam?
Yeah, I think it is a hypocrisy, and also it is going too far. I mean, we can have a bit of a laugh, but saying that you want someone to die, that's pretty grim, really. It's going a bit beyond the pale.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't just kind of hypothetically name someone. They actually named him in the song and said that he should F off and die. And they all sang it like it was funny. Now, perhaps it is. I've got no problem with even a bit of dark humour. We've all seen that. We all know people who enjoy jokes like that. But these are Lib Dems who are always speaking up against this sort of thing, and yet they go and have a knees up and do it straight away. What do you think, Susan?
Yeah, it's not exactly the political unity that they're calling for, is it, really? The kind of... call for someone to die. Sounds harsh,
political
really.
unity, that mythical beast. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's not. Like I said, I'm very hard to offend. I'm all a bit of dark humour, a bit of laugh and a joke is fine by me. But I think if you're saying that sort of thing's not really allowed to happen, and you're calling for everyone to stand together and be together on these things, and then tell them to F off and die. I think someone might have to question if you're,
If you're serious about your comments, yeah, I know. Do you mean it?
Yeah.
So just moving on to the last item then. So Guy Verhofstadt, he's the Belgium head of the Liberal group on the European Parliament. And he's a particular figure who's always outspoken about the EU. And he's one of the most extreme, I would say, extreme left proponents on the EU. And he's really been opposing Brexit every step of the way. And he's a real kind of... considered, I suppose, a real top enemy of the strong Brexiteers. And he was invited to the Lib Dem conference, and he did a speech. And in his speech, a couple of the comments he made have really made the news, because he proclaimed an end to nation states and said that empires are the way forwards. Now, I don't love all this kind of, this person is like Hitler and that person is a Nazi nonsense. I think it's used way too much. But it's not helping his case, is it, when he's making statements like that? What do you think, Sam?
Well, I think in a way it's a bit funny because the whole idea of sort of imperialism and empires the left always hate, so it's quite funny to see them actually bringing it up again as a good thing.
It's a good empire when it's their empire.
Exactly, yeah. And it's saying that we're into a nation state. I mean, I just think first of all, it's sad because I think people are very proud to be British, and that's not a bad thing. That doesn't make you racist or anything like that. You can be proud to be a British person or
any other nation.
Any other nation.
Proud to be a Belgian.
Exactly.
Guy Verhofstadt.
Wherever you're from, there's nothing wrong in national pride, and actually it's quite a good thing. So I think that to say that we should end nation states and just become a big empire, I just think is a bit sad. And I suppose there's the argument about safety in numbers. So if you're a small island, how would you compete against the likes of Russia or China, where I suppose together you might be stronger, but you are at danger of losing your identity, and we've had kind of cooperation for a long time. That's what NATO was all about. You can cooperate without losing your identity and becoming a massive empire.
I think one of the things that separates the left and the right is that we on the right certainly believe in property rights. And property rights goes from your own personal property right up to a nation state that the people who live in that nation collectively own as the place, as their home. And I don't think the left recognise that, which is why you hear them say things like borders are only lines on a map. Actually, no, they're not. People fought and died over those borders. People believe in things in those borders. Those borders represent a cultural value within them. I mean, they've got long histories. They are not just lines on a map. What do you think, Susan?
I think that people need to know where they come from, and they need to feel proud of where they come from in order to be a kind of a really good citizen, if I'm honest with you. So I think some of the problems is that British people have felt that their identity's been attacked constantly. That if you like, say, if you're proud in who you are, you're a racist. If you want to do well in life, you don't like other people. You don't always want to give your money away. So I think lumping us all in together is not a good thing. I do think you can be warm and welcoming with borders.
Yeah.
I do think you can sit there and say this is our country and that's absolutely fine, and we welcome certain people and that's really fine. But I do think when you constantly tell people all that they've worked for and all that they are is wrong, I think that's a real dangerous thing. And I think the British public have spoken up about that and that they're not a fan of it. So.
I mean, it has, I think, unintended consequences too. Some of which are the emergence of the actually dark types of people, the people who do bad things, that think bad things. The emergence of them appears as a consequence of trying to silence people who've just got a perfectly normal wish to like the place they come from. And I just want to add, every other country's got every right to. Every country's got something great about it that they should be proud of. And when I visit other countries, I love to meet the people and see how proud they are of their country, and enjoy mixing with the cultures that I meet and learning how they live and kind of exchanging values. And that's brilliant, isn't it? But if you say everyone's the same and there are no borders, and then you do away with all these cultures that have been built up for thousands of years, don't you?
Yeah, but I think what I'm saddest about with this whole issue is that when they were talking about empires and everyone was like, it was the obvious, we're linking it to Nazi Germany, and that was kind of the obvious, and then, you can't. What I was saddest is no one actually linked it to Star Wars, because, the whole Senator Palpatine creating the Empire, and then the Empire lose, and then, they fight back. That's genuinely a good meme!
Yeah, hang on, that's a genuinely important part.
What does that mean?
The problem with an empire is, what about the people that don't want to join?
Well, they kind of wasn't
them?
alliance.
That's what I mean. What happens to them?
You get 6 movies.
Do we not talk to them? Are they not part of ours? Do they have borders and then therefore we don't like them anymore?
Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gone all the way through the Lib Dem conference and ended up with Star Wars.
And if anyone can make a Guy Van der Herstoff Senator Palpatine meme, I'm up for seeing it. I'll really enjoy that. Because someone's got to do it. There's meme makers out there.
Anyway, that's it for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed our first podcast. We hope to do regular podcasts as often as we can. And they will be about UK news, politics and stuff from a right-of-centre viewpoint. And we are unapologetic. Say goodnight.
Night.